The ground was already wet when the real rains came. And then the downpour came in earnest. After 4 days, already swollen creeks had nowhere to go. And a new mall, just opened on the outskirts of town, had covered acres of absorbent farmland with asphalt. With no outlet, the creeks backed up into the historic downtown of Frederick, Maryland, and devastation became rampant.
The raging floodwaters were carrying brand new Cadillacs down Carroll Creek, past what is now the Delaplane Arts Center, and it looked like something right out of a disaster movie.
That flood was probably the beginning of the end of the family business. Just unbelievable. I went down with my father to help clean up afterwards, and the clothes were probably in that much silt.
That was pretty epic. That storm was pretty epic. It seems like it rained for like 10 days, but not just rain, it rained for 10 days.
If truth be told, downtown Frederick had already been on the ropes even before the floods.
In the late 1960s, early 70s, downtown Frederick, like communities all across America, was really fighting the forces of the development of malls, of highway bypasses that went around traditional downtowns. So downtown Frederick was really on the brink of turning out the lights.
And now, 50 years later, all that has changed. Thousands of people flock to the small city every weekend for festivals, restaurants, and galleries. For the past 2 decades, Frederick has been the fastest growing county in Maryland. How did they manage to turn this into this? And what can other cities and towns across America who've fallen on their own hard times learn from Frederick's remarkable turnaround? Was the turnaround just due to luck? Or was it something more? Was it, perhaps, inspired? Frederick, Maryland sits at a crossroads, 45 miles from both Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Once a sleepy agricultural town, in the 90s, it became a bedroom community for Washington, D.C. Now, it's a much more self-contained community, propelled by federal labs at Fort Detrick and the biotech contracting opportunities that are provided there. And it sits directly north of the wealthiest county in America, Loudoun County in Virginia. Much of its economy that isn't dependent upon biotech is dependent on its rich history and its proximity to Gettysburg and Antietam. It is also home to Camp David. Downtown Frederick is a monument to the positive virtues of historic preservation, with blocks upon blocks of well-maintained buildings covering architectural styles from Federal to Victorian. And the Great Frederick Fair has been going strong for more than 160 years. But most of all, Frederick is famed for its omnipresent clustered church spires, immortalized in a poem about Barbara Fritchie. Frederick's favorite son remains Francis Scott Key, author of the Star-Spangled Banner. But long before Key joyfully noted that our flag was still there, the mineral-rich land of Frederick was occupied by Native Americans from multiple regions.
The city of Frederick itself sits in kind of an ancient kind of lake bed at the foot of the mountains. This is the first place west of the Chesapeake Bay where you hit mountains and the high ground.
So there was a lot here for Native Americans, and we know that because we had the Five Nation Iroquois, the Piscataway, the Tuscarora, and the Shawnee.
Tribesmen would come as far from the Eastern Shore or perhaps even Ohio, Virginia, to come up to northern Frederick County, Catoctin Mountain to get this resource.
And the same things that are going to bring railroads, roads, canals, interstate highways here, the same that are going to bring Native peoples here as well.
Europeans followed the Native Americans' lead, and Frederick continued as a trading post, lying at the crossroads of north and south, east and west. In 1745, Irish immigrant Daniel Delaney became the first developer of Frederick, laying out the grid that became the heart of downtown.
Daniel Delaney was smart enough to market his land here to these Pennsylvania Germans, but he also sent circulars over in Europe and attracted people to come directly from Germany as well.
The arrival of the German settlers was welcomed by the British landowners, who were constantly engaged in a power struggle with the French. In 1755, during the French and Indian Wars, British General Edward Braddock marched his troops through Frederick towards an ignominious defeat at Fort Duquesne, outside Pittsburgh. Among his troops was a young George Washington. In this small tavern near Frederick's Carroll Creek, Braddock, Washington, and Postmaster Benjamin Franklin met to plan the attack.